I then came across Neck Deep in 2012, and that completely changed the trajectory. I don't think I would be sat here right now if I hadn't kind of made it through that year. And sort of, it was almost like Neck Deep was like the career reward at the end of like a year or so of drifting and having a bit of a crisis, really.
So you spot Neck Deep, and I guess all that experience puts you in the perfect position.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was instant. I instantly knew there was something there, and this is before they hadn't even played a show at this point. They've not played a single gig. I found them through the song "A Part of Me" on YouTube. It was sent to me by a chap in the US. I was doing a little bit of work for a band called Brutality or Prevail, and they had independently released their album, and I was looking for license partners for it in global markets. And a chap in the US said, "Oh, you're from the UK. Have you heard of this band?" And sent me the video to "A Part of Me." I'd not heard of them, and I was quite, at the time, like I felt like I was quite tapped into like new UK bands, like hot UK bands, whatever. And so I was surprised that I hadn't heard of a band from the UK who were kind of doing numbers already. But it turns out they were big on Tumblr. I didn't have a Tumblr.
Yeah, I didn't know they were big on Tumblr.
Yeah, I guess like people did Tumblr edits, and it was kind of happening in a space that I wasn't kind of plugged into.
Yeah.
And I got sent the video to "A Part of Me," and like it had a couple of thousand views on it. But at the time, I remember feeling like that was significant for a band that I hadn't really heard of, and that wasn't really anybody. And
it's just wild to think that a band that new are releasing a song that good.
Right, exactly. And
like,
yeah, exactly that. And it wasn't just that the song was good. There was something in Ben.
Yeah.
There was something in him that I was like, this guy has it. Yeah. He means it. And I don't know, like, you can listen to that song and his voice is breaking and cracking, and he's this young kid. You know, he was 17, I think, as well. But like, there was just something about it. It had like a magic about it. And I emailed them pretty much straight away, and they were familiar with my name from Architects and LTA, and then actually some of the hardcore bands I'd done some work with, so VWP, Your Demise, Last Witness. Like I'd sort of floated around in the Ghost Fest scene.
Oh yeah, I remember Ghost Fest.
Yeah, just kind of helping out bands here and there, and that meant something to them. And so they wanted to take a meeting, and we met up on the day of their second ever show, which was in London. At the Barfly. They were supporting Me Versus Hero on a little run of shows. I think it was like 4 shows or something. They played their first show the night before. So I'd gotten in touch with them a week or 2 prior, and I was like, can I come and see you live? And they were like, oh, we're going on our first ever tour like next week. So it just felt kind of cosmic. They played their first show, then they came to London in the day. We met up, had a chat, and essentially just went, shall we do it? You know, let's go. And I started working with them from that moment. I took on Neck Deep, and very quickly it became apparent that they were going to need a lot of American support and all this kind of stuff. And obviously from my past experience, I was like, there is no way I'm letting this one get away. So I'm going to go and find myself an agency that has those real connections in the US, and that where I can be properly insulated and provide all the right framework and all the right team members and all the right advice for a band this hot. Like, I'm going to learn from my mistakes. I'm not going to try and go at this alone, if only for my own sanity.
Yeah.
Let alone, them being poached or whatever. So I wanted to make absolutely sure that I could do everything in my power to be the best manager for Neck Deep that I could be. We very quickly got all of their early interest was from the US. They were not taken seriously here in the UK.
So how quickly from you finding them did they blow up?
It was instant. By the year anniversary of them being a band, we announced them signing to Hopeless. And I remember that because their first proper Kerrang feature is them holding a birthday cake with a 1 on it.
Wicked. That's insane.
Yeah, and that was kind of a picture concept that we came up with to be like, on the 1 year anniversary of this band, you're signed to Hopeless and you're on full page in Kerrang. Like, it's a very, very fast trajectory.
It's ridiculous.
And like immediately, like the first thing we did together, so Rain in July was out digitally. The first thing we did together was work on History of Bad Decisions, so that EP, and that premiered with Alternative Press. And so it was all coming from the US. All this interest was stateside.
So were Neck Deep the first UK band that Hopeless signed?
Yeah. First band they signed worldwide. They had done partnership deals they did a record for Shikari.
Okay.
But for America.
Yeah.
And I think they'd maybe done something with Unit 6, but I don't know or maybe they'd had some interest in Unit 6, I don't know, but like they'd never signed a UK band like fully to the roster, and Neck Deep was the first. And so when Hopeless came knocking, which was very soon after History of Bad Decisions came out, it actually came from them they booked a trip to Florida, the band,
right,
as they booked like a Thompson's holiday to Florida to go to theme parks, because a lot of them are theme park enthusiasts. And so they went to Florida on almost like a team building exercise, because I'm not sure if you know if everyone's familiar with the structure of it, but like the band was assembled from sort of 2 different bands.
No, not at all.
So Ben and Seb and West are friends from their area.
Right.
And then at the time, Phil and Danny were from different places. Phil was in a band called Climates with Sam and Powell's, who are now in the band.
Right.
But at the time, they were a separate band. And Climates and cannot remember the name of the other band, but Lloyd and West were in a band together, and they'd played shows together. Ben was trying to do a Dallas Green-esque City in Colour,
right,
singer-songwriter thing, and him and Seb and Lloyd did Rain in July just to put out online for fun, because they were pop punk fans, because they were just dyed-in-the-wool Blink fans and just wanted to do it for a laugh, and it blew up, and they had to put a band together to play it. And so they asked Phil, who they knew from Climates, to play it, and Danny was someone who'd sent Seb an audition video or something. So they just kind of pieced this band together and had to get to know each other as a unit whilst being like a hype band. It was organically put together. It wasn't manufactured artists, but like they didn't, there was they're not like, they weren't 5 friends that met in college and formed a band.
Yeah.
Some of them were, some of them weren't. And they just kind of put themselves together and then started doing all this stuff. And so they went on this trip, and while they were out there, off sort of spontaneously, booked a show and played a show in Florida. Not something I would advise to do any band to do without a visa. However, it was a great decision, because it showed that all this online attention they were getting from America was translatable to real life. Lots of people showed up. They played a crazy house show at someone's house. They played like a house party, and it was wild. And then the next day, like 24 hours notice, booked a venue, like a 200 cap venue, and it got completely rammed out. There's footage of this floating around still. And that footage went kind of the equivalent of a bit viral.
Yeah.
So it's like, who the hell is this band playing this crazy show in Florida with like stage divers and inflatables and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And off the back of that, Hopeless got in touch with us. And so once Hopeless were interested, that's where I was like, I really need to like put something around this. Because I don't know what I'm doing in the US, and I want to make sure that any blanks that there could be are filled, because I want to continue working with this artist and think we want to continue on this path. So I flew out to LA on my own dime, stayed on Eric Tobin, the VP of Hopeless, stayed on his couch.
Did you know him before then?
No, I knew him from Signing It Deep, but he was kind enough to put me up on his couch, and he's a legend. He still consider him somewhat of a mentor for me in the business. We're still very good friends to this day. But he put me up on his sofa, and he essentially introduced me to a ton of people in LA, and he helped me set up. He sort of said, here's this person, here's this person, here's this person. Sort of helped me network so that I got to know a lot of people in the relevant industry for Neck Deep, the sort of the Warped Tour world, Warped Tour RIP world. You know, I got to know in the space of like 5 days, took meetings with like the manager of Knuckle Puck, the manager of Taking Back Sunday, the you know, all these kind of artists, and ended up meeting Kevin Lyman. You know, I like also in the space of a week, thanks to Tobin's kind of helping me plug myself in. He was like, you know, introducing me to people. This is Leander, he works for Neck Deep. We've just signed them. They're exciting. You should have a chat. And so I spent a week in LA just going out for lunches and breakfasts and coffees and whatever with all of these people, and came back from it with a job opportunity.
That must have been the most exciting.
It was really
meeting these people, and this is where it could go.
Yeah, it was really exciting, but I was also in a being honest, I was in a race with my own anxiety.
Yeah.
As well, to be like, I really need to get a job. Like, I have to find somewhere. I need to house this band. I need to house myself and this band somewhere that's good and right ASAP, because otherwise, you know, it felt like at the time, like whilst it was popping in America, the sort of global industry and like the people that might be sharks, the people that might be vultures and stuff were not yet circling.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've kind of got this moment right now where I need to kind of build our ecosystem, and I need to make sure I'm included in the ecosystem, because as I saw a few years previously with architects, that can, you know, you can get excluded quite quickly when things start popping.
So, I mean, I guess you put together the team around them in the US and the UK.
Yeah, everyone. So there's people that work for the band now that I hired.
So did you literally sit down and be like, I need this, I'm going to go out and just fucking get it?
Yep. And I made sure that I was the person going out and getting it. Spent a lot of time in America in those early years, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
I was in the US a lot because it took the UK a little bit of time to catch up with their career.
How influential then was the Warped Tour?
Oh, it's everything. I don't think the band would have flourished to the degree that they did without it. Like, it was instrumental in establishing the band in the US, and we were fortunate that they were able to do it in full 3 times, but they also played it. We did a one-off show once at a Warped Tour date. I think it was 3 full Warped Tours. Yeah, 3. But it was just incredible, and we based album campaigns around it. We released Life's Not Out to Get You off the back of a Warped Tour. We released Peace in the Panic off the back of a Warped Tour. You know, like literally the band walking around Warped Tour with lanyards with pre-order codes on it, selling them for $5, like Camden Market sellers. Or like, and that really, you know, and then walking around with the stage signs and stuff, you know, and the band were incredible at it. They were really good at doing that. They worked really, really hard. Neck Deep is, I mean, you know, we haven't worked together now for coming on 4 years, but they were one of the hardest working bands like that I've ever worked with. Like they grind.
Wish You Were Here has almost 200 million streams.
It went viral in Indonesia.
Is that what happened? Because
Yeah, that's after my time. But
okay.
yeah, that I heard about that from Hopeless. Yeah, it went. Someone did a cover of it on TikTok, and it went viral.
Right.
And yeah, it hit in Indonesia, and then now the band have like from what I understand, like something really substantial going on in Indonesia, and that has really boosted the streams of that song. That was not a song we released as a single.
No,
I actually I worked that record with them, The Peace and the Panic, and Wish You Were Here was not one of the like songs we put forward. It wasn't a single. It didn't have a music video. Like, you know, it's that happened after the fact, and that is really a next gen technology thing that's happened for them. I haven't been a part of that. That's happened since we parted ways.
How come you're not with the band anymore?
COVID, burnout, all sorts of a multitude of reasons.
Poached by Joey.
Yeah. Imagine. No, not this time. No, we were together nearly 8 years, Net Deep and I, and we traversed our way through 3 different management agencies. So I was at Mythophonic when I started with them. Then we moved to KMGMT. We were there for the longest portion of my time with the band was at KMGMT. We were there for 4 years. And then we moved to an agency called IE, which is the management company for Robbie Williams. Cool. We were there for the last couple of years of my time with them. And now they're at 5B, not with Joe. With Ian Dickinson, who looks after
of course,
yeah. I had hit a burnout in the job. I had just I had a daughter. My wife and I had a daughter as I was joining IE Music, and she turned 1 just before COVID, and Net Deep and I parted ways midway through COVID. So trying to work a band of the level Net Deep were, whilst being a new parent, and then facing a global pandemic, various puzzle pieces, various external pressures weighed into things not working with us anymore. It was a mutual parting of ways. We were no longer a good fit for each other. What they needed and demanded from and expected from management, which is nothing, that's not to say it was unreasonable. What they needed and what I was able and, to be honest, willing to provide at that moment in time, these things did no longer align. And over 8 years, a lot of things can build up, and we had worked together. They'd never not had me as a manager. I'd worked with them from their second ever show. We'd been together this entire time. And across the course of 8 years, as you can imagine, you change in life. They grew up in Net Deep. When Net Deep first started touring the US, Ben and Danny were not old enough to be in the venues that they were headlining. But obviously they got the exemption because they were the headliners, but they couldn't. Yeah. They played Las Vegas and they couldn't go into the casinos for the first few tours that they did out in the US. Like, they were getting to know each other as a band whilst being a headline level artist, whilst having to deal with the pressures that come with being a hot band, a successful band, a band that's touring the world 8-9 months of the year. By the time you get 8 years into a career, they have girlfriends, they have partners, they have fiancés, they have mortgages, they have this. Their life changed. I had a child, and suddenly you find yourself going, gosh, feels like we don't really fit anymore. And what I need, what you need, there was just a disconnect. And I think we're perhaps all guilty of not seeing the wood for the trees, not appreciating maybe each other at the time. But I think it was just ultimately inevitable, especially with COVID. COVID stripped us of an album campaign. The band had put a lot of work into writing and recording All Distortions Are Intentional, and we'd set up a lot of cool things, a whole global touring campaign in the wake of that record. We got to do none of it.
Yeah.
Because, the pandemic obviously shut the world down, and the frustrations that came with that, I guess, metastasized for all of us in various areas, and priorities shifted. Certainly for me, I can only speak to myself, I can't speak on their behalf, but certainly for me, my priorities shifted because I had a newborn daughter at home, and I wanted to support my family, and things just stopped working. That's the long story short of it. It was no longer a good fit. Something that had been a good fit and had been a great success for a long time suddenly felt like perhaps we're doing more damage than good to each other.
Yeah.
And there was an opportunity for me to exit, and I took it.